Hey guys, Chris Birch here, Entrepreneur Strategies. Welcome to my channel. I wanted to jump on today. I'm heading to prospect a potential real estate deal wholesaler sent to me this morning. It's in an area called Harbor View in the city of Baltimore. So I'm pulling into the harbor now. So let's follow across Russell Street and head on up to the property. So we're now pulling into the inner harbor. Right in front of you is the M&T Bank Stadium, Baltimore Ravens home stadium. And I thought as I was driving up the parkway, it's about lunchtime, so I think after we go take a look at this potential deal, I think I'm gonna head over to Canton, which is a great little neighborhood off the harbor, and get one of those Maryland crab cakes for lunch. So I'll take you guys with me once we head over there as well. So as we just passed M&T Stadium, the Ravens Stadium, coming under this bridge here, you'll see another ballpark, which is Camden Yards, which is the home of the Baltimore Orioles, Major League Baseball. Yeah, speaking of the Orioles, I remember coming over here probably as a preteen, even a teenager, because I do remember driving a couple times. Growing up in Washington, D.C., we never had Major League Baseball. We had football, we never had Major League Baseball. So, in a sense, the Orioles were kind of like our own home team. So I do remember coming over here a fair amount for the Oriole games. A little bit I know about this property. It was sent to me, I said this morning, but it was actually sent to me yesterday from a local wholesaler who had sent a text. I'm on a couple different real estate wholesalers email lists and text lists. Sent it over to me yesterday afternoon. I pulled it up online on Google Maps just to kind of get an idea of the immediate block, the immediate neighborhood that this property sits in. It didn't look great as far as what the physical characteristics of the immediate street, but it's actually in a great neighborhood. So that's what kind of piqued my interest to want to come over and take a look at it, and also, as I said, grab some lunch. But when you're prospecting the property, it's an important thing to look at. Sometimes the deal is good because it's a cheap price, but you got to also pay attention to the actual neighborhood. You got to pay attention to the surroundings, pay attention to, is there development, is there strong retail, is there multifamily, is there single family. You kind of have to build up and figure out the demographic of the neighborhood when you're trying to figure out if your numbers will work. So we're only about 5 minutes away. I'll jump back on as we're pulling down the street. All right, so we just crossed over North Avenue and we're heading north on Harford Road up to this property. You know, what's typical in the city of Baltimore, there's just a lot of common parts. I think this area. So we're about 2 miles north of the harbor, of the inner city harbor. So it's another middle class, working class neighborhood. And this area over here to the right, it's called Clifton Park. Alright, sorry about that. I just looked down. I was almost out of gas. I had to stop and get some gas. Not the most desirable place to stop and have to get gas, but it's the middle of the day. Not too much going on over here. So as I said, we're in a middle class area right off Hartford Road. I did just drive down the street where this property is located. Not so sure. I'm not so sure if this is going to be something worth looking into. I think it would be if the price was right. And the price that was quoted to me is quite high for what you'll see as we go down the street, but who am I to say? I think we definitely need to do some comps, probably run prop stream, kind of get an idea, but it seemed as if there were way more vacant properties than what I was told. So that's usually not a good thing, but we'll see. See how good my personal navigation is. I turned the GPS off when I stopped for gas, but I remember we were coming down this, I think it's called Gorsuch, and there were two guys washing their car, and the house we're looking at is right around the corner from that, so I think I'll be okay. So come through here. I'm not gonna say it's desirable, but I'd say half of the properties on most of these blocks are occupied. Something like that. Maybe, yeah, probably half. The house here on the corner looks like it's completely renovated on my left. And then the Prospect property that we're looking at is going to be right here. Pop this off. It's going to be this house right there. Wholesaler told me that it had been renovated. Not much left to do on it. But as you see directly next to it, boarded up, maybe occupied, but yeah, probably 2 or 3 at most. Next to it. And this guy walking up the street here, that's who just startled me, knocked on the window, wanting to see if I want something, but he's cool. But yeah, ow. don't think this is gonna work. It's just, there's too much boarded up, too much abandoned, as you see there. So we'll see. Let's go back over. Let's go over to Canton and get a crab cake. I'll let it roll while we go up the street here, just so you have a better idea of the block. There's my buddy right there. Wanted to see if I wanted some of that Baltimore's finest, as they call it. No, thank you. So while we're heading over to Canton to grab lunch, I just wanted to film downtown Inner Harbor, Baltimore. I know some of the content I've been posting doesn't really portray the city as a whole, so I thought it important for you guys to see that it's like any other urban city. Hotels, restaurants, shops, government offices. It looks like any other northeastern city. So, it gives you a different perspective. So when you see me drive through these areas, it's usually because the real estate that we're looking at, it is in these lower income neighborhoods. And the reason why we look in some of these areas as investors is because it's extremely affordable to get in at a very inexpensive price. But with that comes sometimes a not so great neighborhood. That's why it's not desirable, and that's why the price is so low. So that's just one perspective of real estate. We also look at middle class and upper class neighborhoods. Those numbers the math usually works out to be the same. But with those higher dollar price areas, you have to think about financing and funding. Something I recently did was I got approved for just over $100,000 in funding, business funding, no personal guarantee. It doesn't show up on my personal credit. Actually, I should put down in the description below, I'm gonna put a link to it. It's a direct link with this company, Fund and Grow. It's a simple application. It took about 30 days for me to get funding. Thought I'd just throw that in there now that I'm speaking of funding and financing. But I mean, if you just look here, we're right on Light Street, cutting across the harbor. But Baltimore's like any other urban city. The outskirts have its ups and downs. The suburbs obviously are extremely nice. And then the west side, as you've seen in other videos, it leaves a lot to be desired for. All right, so we have arrived on the east side. We're cutting through well-known area here, which is Fells Point, and we're cutting across on Fleet Street over into a neighborhood called Canton, and that's where we're gonna stop and grab us one of those enormous crab cakes. But as we cut through, you can see here, development is alive and well. On the east side, there's brand new condominiums, there's all sorts of stuff. The east side is really, I guess over the last probably 5 to 10 years, has really taken off as one of the more desirable areas if you want to actually live in the city. So you have Federal Hill, Fells Point, you have Canton, and then you have the eastern part of Pigtown, and then even the southwestern part, especially coming down Washington Boulevard, is seeing a lot of new development, a lot of money coming in mostly from the private industry, house flippers, renovators, rehabbers. Some guys are coming in, renovating, and then renting on the long term. But those areas are the four most desirable, and if you want to live actually within the city limits. Broadway. Broadway, if we were to cut down and go through Broadway Market, it'll take you down to the waterfront, which is really only a couple blocks down. There's outdoor music venue and shops and restaurants and all sorts of stuff. It's a really great developing area in the city. You have little coffee shops on the corner. It has a very historic look to it. Cutting through this neighborhood, everything is very well kept. So, from that property that we just drove past, the Prospect, the wholesaler who sent me the lead on that property showed me the basic neighborhood, in a sense, on a map. So, what you guys saw was pretty much abandoned and boarded up, the majority of that street, right? Literally 2 blocks over before we turned in was all occupied. It's a commercial corridor, and 2 blocks off of that street, 2 blocks off of that corridor, Hartford Road, you come back into these dilapidated buildings and dilapidated homes that have just been literally abandoned in the city. So the number he brought to me, because of he used the zip code and he used what was in proximity. That's not necessarily a comp, because a comp is same square footage, same home in the same desirable block, or within proximity, within a few blocks. Taking that zip code as a number doesn't really work, because you see the vast difference, coming over. All right, so we coming down Boston Street. We are pulling up to Captain James Crab House. I'm gonna go ahead and park, jump out, and all right, so we made it. Captain James. I don't know if you guys can tell, but the whole building, Captain James, is built like a boat. You can probably see better out here, but it looks like a boat. So I'm gonna run inside, grab one of those big ass crab cakes. I'll be back out in a minute. All right, so I am back outside. Captain James, guys, look at the size of that crab cake. Man. So I'm gonna go ahead and have lunch. You saw the property we just looked at. I don't think it's gonna be a deal, but let's go back. We'll do some numbers. If you enjoyed riding along with me, don't forget, comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget, also hit the like and the subscribe button. That helps for optimization with the channel. It also lets us know that we're providing content that you guys, appreciate. So it's Chris Birch in the city of Baltimore, about to have lunch. Entrepreneur Strategies. Talk to you guys soon.